All right, everyone. This is Pina Brandy from PB Property, and today I have a very special guest. My guest today is an immigration agent, and the reason why I organize an immigration agent is because if you've been watching the news, you know that Australia is supposed to receive almost like around 600 people in the next 2 years. So, sorry, 600,000 people.
Hmm.
And a lot of people are sending me emails and asking me questions that, of course, I don't know how to answer. So I was thinking, who do I know that might know those answers? And this is who I know, BINFENG. So I'll let BINFENG introduce himself, and then we'll start right into the questions. So BINFENG, over to you.
Thank you very much, Pina, for having me on here. My name is BinFeng, and I'm the owner of a company called Affinitymigration. I am a registered migration agent in Australia, and we've been around for approximately 7 years. And a big part of what we do covers students, skilled migrants, employer sponsored, all the way through to our family group of visas.
Oh, wow. Wow, a long time. And before we go into the questions, being frank, so why did you decide to be an immigration agent?
I was also a migrant to this company, to this country. I came over when I was about 11 years old, and for the longest time I can remember, I've been filling out my own student visas and my family's visitor visas. So, when I became a citizen of this country, I thought, okay, I was a chemical engineer at that time, and I thought, maybe I'd like a career change. And this was really the only other thing that I was familiar with.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so cool. Well, hopefully you know all the answers to the questions, and if it's okay if you don't know, okay? So I guess one of the first ones that came over and over again was what do I need to know before migrating to Australia?
Okay, that's a very good question. A lot of people, I guess, come over here on a temporary visa to begin with, right? But they don't often come over here with a plan. So the first thing I would say is if you suspect that you're going to be in Australia more than just temporarily, for example, if you want permanent residency, then from the very beginning, you should start planning towards that so that you take all the necessary steps and nothing is wasted along the way. The second thing that I would say is we have 7 states and territories in Australia, right? So have a think about what sort of a lifestyle do you like? Do you like the beach lifestyle? Do you like wine and country? Do you like the mountains? And so, depending on what you like, Australia has different states that cater for that. And even within the same state, there's different regions that might cater for those things. And then thirdly, a lot of people come to Australia without a job, and that is quite normal. When you go to a new country, you don't often have a job beforehand, but know how much money you're bringing along because Australia is probably not the cheapest country to live in. At the same time, before you get to Australia, have a look at what jobs are available, and that is very important because before you find a full-time paying job, which can take a couple of weeks to a month or so, you're going to be spending your own money. So it's important that you do find a job to meet your expenses in Australia.
That is so true, Binfeng, because I remember my first year in Australia, like when we migrated, we came already with the objective that we wanted to get PR. And
Mm.
I remember not even spending money with furniture. For a whole year, we slept on the floor on a mattress because I said, oh, what if I don't get the visa? I don't want to have to sell all this furniture or having to get rid of it. So it's all wasted money. So yeah, my plan was definitely to get the visa and get it done at a lower cost as possible because the visa itself was very expensive.
Yeah.
Um, Now the next question is, what are the three top things people must do before migrating to Australia?
Okay, so before migrating here, what a lot of people don't realize is Australia can be quite lonely if you don't have family or friends here. The great thing is, there's Facebook these days. So jump onto Facebook, look up certain community groups that might be in your area with people from the same country who have migrated over, and just get in touch with them, right? I think that helps, that goes a long way. Second thing, sounds like common sense, but, sometimes if you want to bring money to Australia, yes, you can transfer things and you can set up a bank account in Australia even before you arrive. But you have to go to the bank, you have to verify your identity before the account can be used. So exchange some money, still carry some cash. Even though Australia is largely a cashless economy, but a lot of places will still accept cash. And that's just to get you by until your account becomes active. The third thing I would definitely recommend looking up is a place to live. You don't want to arrive at the airport and not have anywhere to live, right? So again, those community groups can be very helpful in terms of, someone might have a rental place that then they're willing to put you under. Airbnb is a great idea. A hotel for a week or two might work. So yeah, all these simple things just to get you set up and running.
That's so cool. Yes, that's true. I actually know a lot of people at the moment, they still use cash, and I know some shops that they are cash only, and that's so bizarre. um, Now, the next question is, what are the 5 top employments that would accept me as a student visa and help me get a PR status, to a PR status?
Yeah. So I don't know if I've got 5 off the top of my head, but being a student visa holder, you're limited to 40 hours per fortnight. So that means every 2 weeks you can work 40 hours. It's up to you how you spread that out. Now, come the 1st of July, that will increase to 48 hours per fortnight. So you get an extra 8 hours. It's still not full time. Now, a lot of people who come here end up working in hospitality. So restaurants, cafes, hotels. These places are good if you're going to pursue a career path in hospitality. Otherwise, working in them is just a means of, I guess, getting income, right? The other place that I see a lot of people working in is construction. Construction has a lot of work. It is, again, this is very specific to people who want to pursue a career in construction. There are a lot of companies that are doing civil and or mechanical, and you can work for them. The third one, which is not really going to be related to a pathway to permanent residency, but just more a job, that would be, for example, factories. I know a lot of students who come here, and then there are recruitment agencies who will place you into factories to work. That could be packaging, for example, packaging salmon, packaging meat, fruits, things like that, right? And then from what I understand, the pay is quite good also. And last but not least, I would say, look for jobs that are specific to your industry, right? Because when you're studying in Australia, normally the rule is if you're still studying and you're working in your industry, that technically doesn't count. But the good thing is if you're already in your industry and then you graduate, that means you've already got a job, and anything you work on after you graduate, that automatically counts towards your permanent residency. And a lot of students make that mistake. A lot of students think, okay, I'm on a student visa, I'll just do any work to make money without thinking about, oh, when I finish my student visa, it's going to take me time to find a job in my industry, right?
Yeah, that's very, very true. But as well, I find, I don't know, I find a lot of friends that complain that people won't give them the opportunity because they don't have the experience.
Mm.
Or there might be how do they call it here in Australia, when an internship, and it's usually not a paid internship, so they get
Yes.
experience but they don't get any income, so it makes life even harder because they need to make a choice. And as you mentioned before, Sydney or Australia in general, it's a very expensive place, and working for free is not really something that we're all looking for. But I guess looking at the bigger picture, and then the end goal, that is getting the PR, that's definitely something people should consider, correct?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of employers do say, oh, you don't have experience in the industry. What I am finding that more and more employers are saying that, have you worked in Australia before? Doesn't matter if you've worked in my industry before, have you at least gotten some work experience in Australia? And that's because I guess Australians have a particular culture in their workplace and a particular way of doing things. So as long as you've worked in Australian company before, even if it's stacking shelves at a supermarket, that looks good on your resume, because when you go for your first interview, people will say, oh, you've worked here before. So you understand a little bit of what it means to work in an Australian company. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Now a big question that it came through different ways and gets a lot of people confused. And to be honest, I don't even know the difference. So you're gonna help me here. Um, so when people come and they want to get help, should they go to an immigration agent or should they go to an immigration lawyer? And what's the big difference between engaging one or the other?
Yeah, very good question. And a lot of people do get confused over this. So, immigration agents in Australia, you have to check whether they are registered migration agents, because a lot of people will say that they are migration agents, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're registered. And a quick way of checking is if you go on what we call the MARA website, MARA website, there is a registry of all registered migration agents and their license status. So that's how you can double check. Now, is there a big difference between registered migration agents and immigration lawyers? Technically, no. Both study the same legislation and both are taught how to read and apply the same legislation. The main difference between the two is how far can you go with a particular matter. So, for example, a migration agent can take your case all the way from, applying for a visa to the end of a tribunal hearing. A lawyer can go from a tribunal hearing to the courts. So the only part that a migration agent cannot do is go to court. But to be honest, most of our cases in the last 7 years, maybe only one has had to go to court. And for that, we simply engage a immigration lawyer that we trust, and we pass on the client to them.
Okay, I see. Oh well. And from a cost point of view, is one more expensive than the other?
My immigration lawyers tend to be more expensive because I guess their registration, legal lawyers' registration tends to be a lot more expensive also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's usually every time we have lawyers do charge more, but I guess they studied longer at a university.
Correct.
To make up for all their hacks.
That's very true.
Now, if I have a sibling and this sibling is an Australian citizen or he's a PR, can that sibling sponsor me to get PR?
Yes, it is possible. This is very unique to the skilled migration program. So, and it's under the what we call the subclass 491, which is a regional state-sponsored program. And so how it works is if you have a relative, or in this case, a sibling, brother, sister, it could even be mother or father, who lives and works in a regional area of Australia. So the regional definition, they've simplified it. As long as that area that they live in is not Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane, they are considered to be regional, right? So if they're in that regional area, and yes, Adelaide is regional, funny enough. And so if they're living in that area, then they can sponsor you through the skilled migration program. But there is one other thing. The occupation that they are sponsoring you under must also be on what we call the medium to long-term list for immigration, right? So those are the two criteria. There's not a lot of people that satisfy this, but if you do, you're one of the lucky ones.
So, but does that mean that they need to have a business to sponsor you?
No, this is purely based on your skills and the fact that you have family members living in regional Australia. Yeah.
Wow, that is so cool. And now I know that Brisbane is huge and Sydney is huge and Melbourne is huge. Is that all the 2000 postcode, all the 3000 postcode that goes into? So no part of like outback Queensland is considered Brisbane, really?
Correct. So Brisbane, funny enough, Gold Coast is considered regional. And that's only about an hour and a little bit from Brisbane. So a lot of people end up where, when they migrate, they end up going to the Gold Coast. And if they need to go to Brisbane for the weekend, you're allowed to do that. You're not breaking any rules. Yeah. But in terms of, let's say, Sydney, for example, Sydney, as soon as you sort of hit the Central Coast and start going further than the Central Coast, which is up north, that becomes regional. If you go out west, as soon as you hit the Blue Mountains, that becomes regional. Or if you go down south, as soon as you hit Wollongong, that becomes regional. So that's sort of the geographical area where they define Sydney as metropolitan or regional.
Okay, is there a place in or a link that people can go and check if that postcode is considered regional or not?
Yes. So if you go to Google and just type in regional postcodes, Immigration Australia, then that should bring you to the immigration website and it'll give you all the postcodes for each state. Now, some states you don't even need to bother, like South Australia, the whole state is regional, or Western Australia, the whole thing is regional. So you don't even need to check.
Oh, okay. I don't understand this, but yeah, but it's funny because Adelaide is beautiful. Perth, I've been recently to Perth, and um, for me, it was like Sydney felt like 14 years ago. Like it's very like empty. I would say not many people on the street, but it's still very modern and clean, and like it's a big city. It's beautiful, but what a shame. What a shame that, but I guess it gives people opportunities. Sometimes you're just a driving distance from from a major city, but you still get the lifestyle of a regional city, I guess.
That's right. Absolutely.
Mm. So, if I want to apply for a PR visa from my own country, do I still need to use an immigration agent, or do I need to do it on, or can I do it on my own?
So it really depends on how comfortable you are. So it is never compulsory to use an immigration agent or to use an immigration lawyer. Certainly, there are a good percentage of people that do it on their own. I would say just do your research first. Whichever visa you have heard from friends that they recommend that you apply for, or you think you should be applying for, just do the research and have a good read from the immigration website. That's usually a very good starting point. And then once you start researching, you'll start having questions also. And if you cannot answer these questions yourself, or your friends or the Facebook group that you're part of, you don't really trust their answer, then I would say it is a good time to engage a migration agent just to set you on the right path. Because what we have found sometimes, and we do this often too, a client might come to us and they've done a lot of research and they're very confused. And then we tell them, okay, through a consultation, we say, this is where you're trying to go. These are the things you need to do. And then we leave it with them. We say, if you're comfortable doing it yourself, that's fine, do it yourself. If you're not comfortable doing it yourself, then we're more than happy for you to come back to us and tell us what areas you need help in. We might recommend we help with everything, or we might say, look, I think you're comfortable with these areas. We just need to help with these areas. So yeah, it all comes down to how comfortable the person is with their research and how much they know.
And they can do that from their own country, meaning they could meet with you over Zoom or something like that.
Yes, I think something like 50% of our clients are overseas in different time zones. And so definitely a lot of our work is done through Zoom or other means of video call. And these days, immigration does not need physical documents anymore. So all the documents are scanned, certified, things like that. So everything is done electronically.
Wow. Well, you don't even know what happened to me. Like when we first applied, if I didn't have a great immigration agent back then, 14 years ago, we basically what happened, the immigration office lost all our physical documents. So we were waiting and waiting and waiting. And then the agent called them and they said, oh, sorry, we didn't receive anything. I said, no, I have the post, the post, the post that it was delivered, was signed, is there. And they kind of said, oh, sorry, we can't find it, just send it again. And it's like, no, like it took them 3 months to get all the police clearance and all the things from overseas. And there's no such a thing like, but I do have certified copies in my office that I done myself. So I'm gonna send you those, and you're gonna accept
Mm.
those copies. And I was like listening to him talking on the phone, and I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna have to do it all over again. And they said, okay, okay, because they worked with him so many times.
Yeah.
And he was a justice of
Of
peace.
peace. Yeah. Yeah.
And so they had to take his copies, and then after that, basically within a week, we got the visa. But it was like a moment where we were like, can you imagine if we had done it without an immigration agent? Like, we would have to go through all the things all over again, asking our parents to go and go to all these offices overseas to
Yeah.
get all these documents. So I'm glad to know and see that things have evolved, hopefully
Mm.
thanks to COVID.
Yes, absolutely. And look, to be honest, I think they would have just given you the visa anyway because they like you so much. They want to keep you here.
I wish. Uh, Now, I know you probably touched base with these with most of the questions, answering most of the questions. But if
Mm.
there was one thing on why people should use an immigration agent instead of trying to do it on their own, what would be the most important reason that you think that why people should consider using an immigration agent?
Yeah. I guess just peace of mind, knowing that that migration agent has seen hundreds of these applications and they know what they're doing. They're keeping up to date with the latest legislative changes. Immigration law is probably the fastest changing area of law in Australia, right? With this government alone in the last 12 months, we've seen so many changes. And it can get very confusing to understand what is update, what is outdated, what is new, what is old. So just paying someone to even give you that consultation or to take the whole matter for you helps you sleep at night. So because if you lodge an application by yourself, you'll always doubt, oh, did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? Did I miss something? Right? So paying someone to help you on part of that journey, if not the whole journey, just allows you to sleep much easier at night, knowing that a professional has taken care of it. And this is what they do every day of the week, right?
That's so true. Even though I find sometimes that not all immigration agents are the same. So
Mm.
if we originally, when we arrived, we went to three of them, uh,
Wow.
and the first two were free, like so were free sessions, and
Yes.
those two told us that we had no chance to stay in Australia, that we had to go back to our countries, and that we could not, there was no way of getting a PR. And then the third one that we paid found a solution.
Yeah.
So would you say that that's why it's better not to try to get free advice, that it's better to get paid advice?
I would say it is what we're seeing also in the industry that those that provide free advice actually don't spend much time on your case. So they might ask for some documents, they might spend 5 minutes looking at it, and then they'll arrive at a conclusion, right? Whereas the ones that are paid, usually, I mean, certainly in our own practice, when it comes to paid consultation, even though the consultation is only an hour long, we actually spend an hour beforehand doing research. And then we spend half an hour to an hour afterwards sending you an email, right? So definitely, you're not just paying for that 1 hour, you're actually paying for 3 hours of work, sometimes even more if it's a complex matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very good. That's very good. And it's one of those things that people try to save money, and then ends up costing them more in the long run. So it's better
Yes.
uh to kind of find someone good, and then stick with it, and then and hope for the best. Now,
Mm.
Binfeng, tell me, if people wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way of
Yeah.
contact?
So there are two ways. So the first way is through our website. We've got a contacts page on our website, affinitymigration.com.au, or you can send us an email directly. Again, info@affinitymigration.com.au.
All right, awesome. I'll leave all this information as well on the description of the video, and the links that you gave as well, so people can check their if the immigration agent is accredited or not, or
Yeah.
certified or not. That's very important. And yeah, and Now, one last question, like from what you're seeing at the moment and all these news that we're gonna receive so many people in the next couple of years.
Mhm.
Is there any trends that you're picking up on of the
Yeah.
type of migrants, of a place, a specific country they're coming from? What are you seeing?
Yeah, we haven't seen a specific trend in terms of ethnicity or ethnic background of the migrants. Certainly, they seem to be coming from everywhere. Um, but what I will say is, I read an article recently that said, a lot of these people want to come to Sydney. Sydney is already very expensive, and with people, even more people coming to Sydney, Sydney's only going to get more and more expensive. So my encouragement to our existing clients and to all new clients is look outside of Sydney, look outside of Melbourne. Maybe go to Brisbane, Gold Coast, go to Western Australia, South Australia. If you don't mind living in a place that you see not many people, then you can go to Tasmania also. But look, it'll all come down to can you afford the rent? How much is it going to cost just to go out and eat a meal? How much will your wages be? And I think some of these other states will probably be more affordable than Sydney in the next couple of years, at least. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. And I hope you guys enjoyed it and that was helpful for all the ones that had the questions. And if you have any additional questions that we haven't covered, please do leave a comment or reach out. I will be more than happy. I'll be more than happy to just forward them to Bin or even do a second video. So make sure you don't hold any questions back. No question is a stupid question, especially when it comes to migration. As he said, everything is changing all the time. So
Yeah.
make sure you always have the most updated information. Thank you, Binfeng, for your time, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you so much, Pina.